would like the ship to go. Now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discussing Trek. I'm your host, Clarence, and like always, I'm joined by none other than Cal Jones. How you doing, sir?
You know what? I am very glad to be here. I'm interested to hear what you think of this finale. But as of this recording, I've got to say it's December the 23rd. Traffic. Don't go to your local Target or Walmart. Stay out of all stores, shopping malls, etc. That would do you good. Yes, I wanted to, if we were discussing who, I would say I'd want a TARDIS. But since we're on discussing Trek, I'd say I wanted a warp drive to just get me out of traffic today.
Or a transporter.
Or a transporter even better. Even better. But how are you? Are you ready for the holidays?
I'm doing well, man. No complaints. I'm ready, I guess. We're here, whether I'm ready or not, it's coming. So yeah, I'm ready for it, man. Ready for a little time off, a little R&R, and just kind of wind back and get ready for 2025, which, as far as a connoisseur of movies and things like that, we got a lot of good stuff coming in 2025. So I'm ready for that.
We got a lot of stuff. And I briefly mentioned last week in our episode that I had just seen the night before Wicked.
Yep.
Let me just say I am further down the Wicked rabbit hole of obsession. So just FYI, I am all into that movie now.
Does that mean you've been back to the theaters, or you just had it constantly playing on your radio?
I have been constantly listening to the soundtrack, and I've been constantly watching reactions to the trailers and the various interviews between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. Just saying.
No obsession,
Obsessed.
man. Well, I hope that obsession carried over a little bit into Lower Decks, which we're going to get into. The series finale of Lower Decks, the new Next Generation, where the USS Cerritos goes on a mission to close a rift in space-time that threatens to destroy the Prime Universe. Our reality, the one we know and love, I guess.
All righty. So for everyone listening or watching, if you have not seen the last episode, the finale of Lower Decks, put us on pause, go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Red alert. All hands stand to battle station.
What gives you the right?
You cannot destroy an idea.
At ease before you sprain
No, that could spoil the milk.
The spoiler warning has been dropped, and we're back to review the new Next Generation. Kyle, do you have any beats for this series?
Yes, indeed. Finale? For the series finale, I'm going to pull out something that was a favorite of mine from my childhood. They're moving on up. There you go. They are, but seriously, they kind of are moving on up. If you look at it from the perspective of where the characters started and where the characters went and where they are at the end, literally, I was being funny, but literally, their parts were moving and they were in their upward mobility. They're moving on up.
Well, Cal Jones, what did you think about them finally getting a piece of that pie? What are your thoughts on this episode?
I'm picturing their ready rooms and their quarters are going to be like a, deluxe apartment or something like that. I don't know.
Wow, we're just taking this all the way.
Yes, indeed.
Nobody knows what we're talking about.
Yep. So just saying, I'm just expecting, and Mariner, she could be the next George Jefferson. Who knows? I'm just saying. But anyway, all jokes aside, I enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job of tying together all these different fragments of storylines and featuring characters that we had seen. And it really spent, in my opinion, very little time on slapstick and the abundance of substance, in my opinion. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, it makes me really regret that we don't get more episodes like this. And of course, this was kind of their big tentpole thing of the season, to have this quantum fissure and, really express it in this episode. And with that, it made me really sad because seems like at the end of every season, we just get gold, man. And I'm left wanting for more of that, I feel. But kind of on the picture of this episode that I put on YouTube, I put the Japanese to be continued symbol on there. I'm not sure it's over. I'm sure we're going to get into that. But as far as the episode, I thought it was spot on. I loved it. I think they tied it in excellently. We brought back some of the characters that have been pretty much new, like Ensign Ollie in this episode that played a pivotal role, and some other characters. So, I feel like as far as the entire season, they did a good job of kind of wrapping it up and just giving us sort of like a fanboy-esque dream in this episode in a lot of ways, and really a good storyline that could have been in any iteration of Trek.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I think, in my opinion, this really worked as a story, because you could take any of the characters from any iteration, like you just said, and deposit them into this story, and it worked. That's what I meant about it didn't spend so much time devoting to slapstick. Because if you go back and you look at TNG, they had their funny moments with Data. That was part of what his character purpose was to add a little bit of levity to some degree.
Yeah. And again, like you said, the funny moments that they put in here were pretty good. And just, having a solid storyline that, it reminded me a lot of, in a different way, it reminded me a lot of the second season of Prodigy by doing something that was, if they did this quantum reality, quantum Fisher thing on a live action, it would be, probably the budget would be ginormous.
Mm-hmm.
But, in the animated medium, here as well as Prodigy, they've done something that they probably couldn't do otherwise, and especially bringing some of these characters in that we've seen over the course of this season.
I'm totally going off kilter here, but would you enjoy seeing, and I'm not talking about a recreated, animated of a lost episode of Doctor Who, but would you like to see any story set in the Doctor Who universe that was animated?
I think they should.
Was new.
Yeah, I think they should. Wow, what was the Grant Doctor that we got in that animated short?
The
something like
Doctor.
That. Yeah, I think they should do more stuff like that, because it seemingly should be cheaper. But that being said, I don't want to get on a Doctor Who rant. But,
No.
But the animation they have done, I've not been that pleased with, because it just feels like if Lower Decks is like the creme de la creme of the animation, and they're like at the bottom. It's just
I totally agree.
Yeah, I wish they do better. Agree. And didn't they just release another story in animated form?
Yeah, they are getting ready to. They're doing today, actually, they're releasing a colorized version of the War Games. But we're not, not Doctor Who. We're talking Lower Decks. I will say, from the animation style, I wasn't as on board with this style as I was with Prodigy, but it grew on me. Over the course of the seasons, it grew on me, and now that's what I picture these characters looking like.
Yeah, and you often talk about comic books and how some of them are drawn by different artists, and you have some that look really, really good, and some that are just like, seems like they got a new artist and they put on this project. But for some reason, I feel like this episode, they upped the animation just a little bit. Did you feel that as well?
I don't know if they upped the animation. I did feel like they maybe upped the budget. And maybe what I'm feeling is we saw such computer graphics, I would say, with that Fisher at the end, and you saw all the different ships. And I know you'll probably talk about the changing ships, but I think what we saw was not necessarily animation, but the computer graphics that they intermingled with the animation, maybe.
Yeah. What do you think about the idea? And we get this oftentimes, and with our bigger show or our main shows, we get the idea that maybe this ship is the only one that can solve this problem. The only one in range is kind of what we usually get. But we get the excuse here that because Boimler is so connected to William Boimler, the other Boimler, his copy, that they may be the only ship that could save the Prime universe. How did you like that idea that because of that, the Cerritos, a ship that really isn't equipped, even Captain Fisher is like, why are you sending us? It has to go in and kind of save the universe in this episode.
All right. So you know me well enough to know that I love breadcrumbs, and I love breadcrumbs that tie together to create this tapestry of a story. that once you know the end story, you can go back and watch it again and it changes the context. You know, I've said that many, many times. If that is their intent or was their intent here, then brilliantly done. But my question I want to throw back to you is, do you think this was their end game all along? Do you think they put these little nuggets throughout series 1, 2, and 3, and 4 to get us to this finale?
I don't know about the timeline as far as saying this is going to be the end for the series, but I will say they have been upping the ante every season. And this does seem like, you know, we're dealing with quantum realities. And especially when we talk about the coda at the end of the episodes, this does seem like it was planned out that, you know, this whole season is Quantum Fisher season, and that's going to be the natural conclusion for the season. It did kind of feel like that. But that being said, I think it's an excellent idea to make the scope of the Cerritos and the Lower Deckers a little more grandiose than it probably could have been otherwise. Because honestly, I can't think of a story that would feel that bombastic for them as this kind of quantum realities felt.
Now, if they have planned, to kind of go back to what I was saying, if they had have planned this from step one and they had the long game planned out, kudos. However, if they also got to the end of season 4, found out that they only had one more season left and said, let's go back and look and see what we've done and how can we find pieces that we can tie together and make a long game out of that. I don't care which long game way they got to the end. If A or B, kudos to either way.
Yeah, and they've done a great job of bringing back these characters, not only in this season, but characters like Mach and what's her name? Relga and Relga's brothers. You know, we had a brother in the early episode that was on the High Council that Mach killed, and his other brother from a few seasons prior. So I think they did a great job of bringing in, you know, I think it all started for me that really gelled was the Wedge Dewage episode from a couple of seasons ago. And I like that they keep bringing in pieces from that episode. You know, Talin is from that episode. So I love that all that pushed forward and, you know, contributed into the finale of the series. I thought was pretty great. Oh, also, I like the idea that they said the Enterprise was en route.
Yes.
So, yeah, I thought that was pretty fun. Talk about, and you're a Doctor Who guy, a timey-wimey guy. Let's talk about the idea of this Schrodinger field, the S field, as they put it in this episode. And it's not going to push us through time necessarily, but it's going to push us through different realities. It is an opportunity for a lot of whimsy, but how did you like how that idea played out?
Oh, that's my, you know, kid in a candy store, because more DC comics than Doctor Who, I think, for me, was I can remember as a kid and I'm looking through DC's Who's Who and I'm going from page to page looking at Earth 1 Superman, Earth 2 Superman, Ultraman, and I'm like Superwoman, Wonder Woman, and looking back and forth trying to spot the differences. You know, so I loved that aspect, seeing the ships every time they would hit a fissure, their surroundings changed, the ship changed. I love that.
Yeah, I have to say I really loved how they did the classic Star Trek thing about we can adjust the shield harmonics to not affect the crew members, but it's not going to help the ship, which they discover, which again, just a great opportunity to see different versions of the Cerritos. And also, you know, we get to see the opposite when a ship enters the field that does not have the shielding. We get to see some of the characters change. We get to see a ship turn into a Klingon barge in this episode where the men are just floating in space. So I felt like they did a good job of playing with that. And again, just a wonderful, wonderful idea to throw into a Lower Decks episode.
So my favorite part of the Klingons changing was at one point where they change and look like Discovery Season 1 Klingons.
Oh, see, I don't know how I feel about that.
I thought that was...
brilliant? Was it?
I really think it was, because to me, that is satire done correctly. No one liked that. And it was a nod to making fun of themselves, not making fun of the story or whatnot, making fun of something that the fans generally dislike.
I give it to you on that one. Something that the fans know is not something that's generally accepted, or people are like, oh, that's not canon. And they just made fun of it. They made fun of it. At first, it came maybe kind of, don't be crapping on Discovery, man. Don't be doing that.
No,
I love Discovery.
I didn't see that at all. I didn't see that as all just crapping on Discovery. I saw that more so as, okay, we tried this. It didn't work. Let's make fun of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Klingons, the Klingons are pretty prominent in this episode. Again, I mentioned Captain Relga and her fleet, and with the ties to Barg, the Klingon Council, and Captain Dork from the Wedge Dooge episode. Let's talk about the Klingons and how that relates to Asylum aboard the Cerritos and how they were kind of brought into being sort of the antagonists of this episode.
I think and I keep going back to Doctor Who, but you know how the Daleks and the Cybermen are the go-to for Doctor Who? Mm-hmm. I think the Klingons and the Romulans are the two go-tos for Star Trek. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't have another adversary, put Romulans in or put the Klingons in. That was just kind of how I felt like that's what they were doing.
Yeah. For me, I thought it really worked well when you have Mock and Malor seeking asylum aboard the Cerritos, and how even though we know these two entities have treaties somewhat, which is very I mean, they break it all the time against each other, that they're gonna, as a lone faction, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna fight them anyway and get what's mine. Although there's subterfuge in that. We know that Helga faked the message, which I have to say, I loved how Ransom, because at first I was like, oh, Captain Freeman's going to turn him over? That's not Star Trek. That's not what a captain would do. They asked for asylum. Admiral Freeman shouldn't be telling them to turn them over, and the captain shouldn't be turning them over either. But somehow Ransom is the one who chooses to hide Mock and Malor.
But see, here's what I think is brilliant about that. This is lower decks. We weren't focusing on upper decks. You kind of complained about upper decks because we got that look behind the curtain of upper decks. Right? But you hated that. But if we were watching upper decks, we would have seen the conversations of Ransom hiding them away, but they weren't the focus. We saw it from another perspective of the lower deckers as an audience, so we didn't know what they were planning.
Yeah, to me, it was almost low key. Let's give Ransom a triumphant moment because we know we're going to make him captain by the end of the episode. So to me, it kind of felt like we were telegraphing that a little bit. But yeah, I was glad to see that he was kind of the one that, like, okay, we can follow rules, or we can do like we always do in Star Trek. Let's just stay in the gray area and do what's right in spite of, where it could possibly be going against orders. So I really like that. Let's brush on the entire Rutherford storyline in this episode. I hate the Cerritos. I love the Cerritos. Take my implant. Thoughts, because to me, it felt very uncharacteristic of him, because we know that he's been Cerritos strong since the very beginning, and he's having doubts about why he's here or if the Cerritos is his ship in this episode.
So I think they were trying to play, and I agree, this was the only one that kind of felt, I was going to say it fell flat, but it also felt forced. It didn't necessarily more so than felt flat, because I'm with you. I didn't see that in his character. And my thought is, I thought he needed the cybernetics. So how did he just get rid of them?
Yeah.
That was my assumption, that is why he had them. And I thought it was also to make us wonder as an audience, to have the expectation that at the end, all four of them were going to go their separate ways. I think that was a red herring to kind of make us feel like, oh, well, he's questioning. Oh, well, we know what's about to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. That makes a lot of sense. Let's pick up a few comments real quick. Wingray's talking about the Babylon 5 animation, which I have not seen the new continuation of Babylon 5. Is the
Oh, there's a
animation good?
Is there a continuation?
Yeah, there's an animated continuation. I've heard Wingrace talk about it on his channel, but I haven't seen it myself.
Oh, I would be interested in.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what that animation is, but maybe I'll check it out. I'll check it out, see if I love the animation on it. And we have Tosh here talking about, well done. Any of those shows could be awesome. Creature Commandos is pulling at my heartstrings right now. I have not started watching Creature Commandos. Have you?
I've seen the first 2 episodes, so.
Are you smitten? You've only seen 2, maybe not.
Well, I've only seen 2. I'm not saying I dislike it, and I just haven't gone back and watched more. I didn't dislike it. I'll put it that way.
Let's talk a little bit more about this S field or Schrodinger field hijinks. We get to see a myriad of different ship configurations. For some reason, this just made me think of that when Star Trek was doing the NFT thing and you could get the ships. And some of the ships looked very wacky because I think they were like computer generated. This made me think of that. But we did get a myriad of interesting ships. We get a one we want to sell. We get a Terran Empire ship. We get a Sovereign class Ally Enterprise E. And we also see an Enterprise D configuration, a Galaxy class configuration in there too, I believe. Again, playing on that trope or that idea of the Schrodinger field where we could see different things. Did you think that was well played in this episode? Fan service?
Yeah, I think it was fan service. I was actually thinking about our friend Jonathan Shorts while we were watching it, because I know he's a big fan of the different types of ships. So, I was actually thinking about him while we were, while I was watching it. I just like seeing this next generation Enterprise, whichever version, that is. That just, I thought was a cool callback.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool fan, all for the fans. I thought it was a great, using the mechanics of the episode, a great way to. I love that way better than them just blurting out stuff from the past that, why do you know that,
And they gave our friend Lee Shackelford often says, don't tell me, show me. And that is exactly what they did. They they took the time to not tell us, oh, look, we look like this, and oh, look, we look like that. No, they showed you really quick.
Indeed. Tasha has a comment about the implant saying that Rutherford's implant was upgraded and it was incompatible with the Cerritos basic systems. It was rushed, but she liked it. Yeah, I think ultimately it worked, but if not for the touching moment at the end of, him getting all his feelings back and now he's in love, so to speak, or just has a huge crush and he doesn't know how to control it.
Yes, literally.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, even though, one of my complaints early on with Lower Decks was the below the belt humor that they had. Well, for some reason, I wasn't offended by the below the belt humor literally at the end with that, because I actually found that enduring of the the
Wait, did I miss him?
You kind of missed something.
Okay.
When he got really embarrassed, he got really embarrassed for a reason.
Okay.
Just take it. Just take it.
People listening.
Just take it as that.
Did you
either that or I just saw something that I didn't see. I don't know.
Did you get the below the belt moment with Rutherford when he got all of his feelings back and he was smitten by Tendi at the table in the 10 forward or mess hall? Did you guys see something that Kyle may have seen?
or is Kyle's just out there?
Well,
but anyway,
we know you're out there, Cal. You're crazy, man. No, I'm joking. Yeah. So let's move on from that. Did we get a good resolution with the Boimler pad that he stole from the alt universe? And I'll take this first. I'm going to say no. Because I just feel like if we want to talk about things that really were kind of rushed to me, we get the scene where it's Mock and it's Mariner and it's Boimler, and the pad has become a point of contention. And at that point, he's like, I don't care about the pad. I just want to save my friendship or something to that extent. And I was like, really? We've become sexy beard Boimler and now you want to save your friendship after all that? Yeah, I just, it seemed like a sort of a letdown to me in a lot of ways.
I'll tell you why it didn't feel so much a letdown to me was because they had made reference to it in the previous episodes with the other characters obviously knowing what he was doing with it and why he had it and whatnot. If they had not done that, then I would have thought, okay, all of that and just for him to tear it up, but I think it had almost become a joke to everyone else. So it worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I just would have liked just a little bit more. And I do like that. I like the fact that and they mentioned this in this video that they released on YouTube, that, Mariner and Boimler have such a friend relationship. And even though she's like, oh man, sexy Boimler and all this, it doesn't go beyond that, because they're at the heart of their relationship, true and honest platonic friends. And that's nice to see. That's nice to see in the series.
Yeah. And I think that's good that you can have where you can do the will they, won't they with the other characters, but also, I like the fact that you can say you can have, whether it's two dudes, whether it's two women, whether it's male and female, that you can have friends that are not related, but platonic, enduring friendship without the will they, won't they tension.
Yeah, I love that we got a shout out to TNG and Worf with the proto Klingons that we got in this episode. I thought that was pretty cool as well. And probably my favorite moment in this episode probably was when Talon and Tendi did the science besties thing. For some reason, it reminded me a lot of Voyager when Captain Janeway and B'Elanna did the warp particles thing. I don't know why it reminded me of that, but they just had the simpatico science besties. I thought that was really cool. And I love the fact that ultimately Maylor, the big dumb jock of the group, is the one who had the idea to save the universe.
Yes.
Pretty darn cool.
Always don't judge a book by its cover.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into the coda. And we talked about some of this stuff a little bit already, but and we can just go down this list I have written here. Mach gets Relus Fleet, which I thought was pretty cool. That's a good turnaround after he has been a junk herder, as they put it in this episode, but really just a bloodline transporter guy. We get the permanent portal being open to other quantum realities. We're going to haul Starbase 80 by this portal. And then tell me if this reminds you of anything. A wormhole / portal opens. We move the space station closer to it. We park a Defiant class at it. And then we have a black lead come and play the commander of the station. Does that remind you of anything, man?
Deep Space 10.
Yeah, that almost felt too on the nose, but I did like it though. I thought it was interesting. Though I have a few problems with the idea of a quantum worm or a fissure being open permanently, and now the mission is to explore strange new realities. And of course, we've had Picard and stuff that's later than this, and we know nothing about it.
Maybe it's Section 31.
It probably should be. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it just kind of throws me the wrong way that it's just sitting out there, which, as Wynn-Grace, and like Wynn-Grace puts it, he's being sarcastic here. Definitely not a spinoff premise at all.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it definitely has spinoff potential for sure. I think it's interesting, but maybe if this was the latest that we knew in this span of time, I wouldn't be as sorry about that, my dogs.
No, you wouldn't be as into it, or if
worried
you didn't
about. I wouldn't be as worried about it. So yeah, I do love the idea. I think it's pretty darn cool. Other things, Ransom is now the captain of the Cerritos, which good for him. Huddle up, guys, and let's engage the core. Which classic Ransom right there. I thought that was pretty darn cool. And I don't know if I love the idea of co-first officers, but maybe another spinoff opportunity with Ransom being the captain going forward. What did you think about Ransom getting the captainship at the end?
I just think that they set the characters off in a good direction overall. I don't have an opinion one way or the other of the two of them sharing the role. I think, even though I say I don't have an opinion, I think I actually like it. in the sense of they were your two main characters, and now they've moved up. And that was one of the reasons I made the joke. They have literally moved up into another chapter of their friendship or their professional career.
Yep. I loved it, man. I loved it. I thought that was an interesting idea. And just, Ransom has not always come off as the most competent officer to me. He just has his, I think they tried to capitalize it in that Upper Decks episode that he just has a different command style. But, I think it could be interesting. But I think with him at the helm, it's going to be a lot more hijinks in the future. And let me pick up a comment real quick here from Church Tucker saying that they had 2 shows worth of direction, a DS9 style Starbase 80 show or a TOS style Cerritos. Ooh, I like it. I like it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap here. Kyle, I want to ask you, as we get ratings ready for this episode, please hit us up with ratings if you have one. But Kyle, as we get ratings from the people in the chat, I want to ask you, did Lower Decks fulfill its mandate to be a comedic Star Trek, adult geared Star Trek?
Yes. And I'm thinking about it as I'm saying yes, but my thought process was there were things in it that I didn't like, and I'm pretty vanilla and I'm pretty laid back, and it's hard to not make me like something. So there were some adult things in there that, I don't like toilet humor and stuff like that. And they had some of that. So yes, the check mark on the adult thing. They stayed around for 5 seasons, and I don't care if this is Paramount Plus and it's, the home of Star Trek, quote unquote. They could have canceled it after 2 seasons. It stayed around for 5 seasons, as many seasons as Discovery did. So, that right there, check. The fact that I disliked it, didn't watch a season, and came back and really enjoyed the ending and am prepared to give it a rating that I enjoyed, check. So I think they were successful. What do you say?
Yeah, I certainly think they fulfilled the mandate. I think it was a little hard for them to find the balance. I think they definitely went too far in some episodes, some stuff I wish I could unsee. And I think when they dialed it in, we've had like some fantastic stuff. I mean, it kind of is up and down the gamut as far as the quality of episode, because again, they've had just some things that are probably the best in Star Trek, and this episode is an example of that. And they've had some that were the worst, like when they tried to do the naked now on the Cerritos. So yeah, in that aspect, I really think they did fulfill the mandate. They had to take some swings to try to find out where they wanted to land. So I can't really fault them that much in that, but it's kind of sad that when they actually start to get their legs under them, where they finally find their footing, that it's over now. So that's sad, but I really think they did an excellent job of finding their way over the course of 5 seasons.
Good deal.
And let's pick up some comments real quick before we get out of here. We have 5 out of 5 from Tasha. And with Win Grace, we have, as an episode, it's probably 4.5 out of 5. As a series finale, I would give it a little lower. And also we have 4 out of 5 from Church Tucker, which is impressive given that they only found this was a series finale after they started working on it. Yeah. Impressive that it's so, I feel, bombastic for Lower Decks, having probably not even knowing this when they started writing, this season. So yeah, I think it was a great job. I'm going to give this, I'll go first. I'll give this 5 out of 5 Science Besties out of 5. What about you, Cal Jones?
So Merry Christmas. I'm going to give this to you as 5 Discovery Season 1 Klingons out of 5. So yes, I enjoyed it. 5 out of 5.
Eat your heart out, Laurel. Eat your heart out. And with that, guys,
Takumba.
And with that, guys, we are going to wrap it up. And Kyle, well, we made it through another series.
Yes, indeed. Can't wait. I could count all the things I'm looking forward to, but for some reason, as I'm counting, I want to stop at 31.
Dun, dun, dun.
Who was also in Wicked, by the way.
Oh, yeah, Michelle Yeoh was in Wicked. A comment from Ivan Hardison real quick. I'm with you. I liked bawdy humor, but sometimes I thought,
Meh.
3 out of 5 for me. Cool. Yeah, Wayne Gray says, Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas indeed, guys. Have a good one, and we'll catch you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Discussing Network. Find out more at discussingnetwork.com.
Can I say that like shut up Wesley? I can just go shut up Clarence?